The purest example of goal misgeneralization is an agent that has internally learned the reward function R, and an agent that's learned some proxy R prime that perfectly correlates, are indistinguishable during training, but distinguishable during test time. Lara Longosko's paper on goal misgeneralization, the game is called Coin Run. It's a little agent in a kind of Mario-like world where there's like obstacles to jump over and like monsters to dodge or whatever. And at the end of every level is a coin. And the agent was rewarded negatively for getting dead and rewarded positively for like getting the coin. And you train, and unsurprisingly, the agent like capably jumps over the obstacles and dodges the monster and picks up the coin at the end of the level. Then you run it again after the agent's been trained, but you put the coin somewhere else. And it ignores the coin. It like capably jumps through the level and does all the stuff it did before and then slams its head repetitively into the right-hand side of the map, expecting a coin that is not there. So this is like the canonical example of goal misgeneralization. We just have like a simple environment that like doesn't take as long to train, so we can like do it for a day material. The example we give in the material on goal misgen is basically you got this little environment and there's a little robot, and the robot can walk around, and there's like urns that if it bumps an urn, it shatters it and turns into shards, and it can pick up the shards and put them in the bin. And the kind of like the high level goal that I want is I want the agent to like clean up the room and put the shards in the bin, but not smash up any urns in the process. And we sort of go through like two things. We talk about like both reward misspecification. I give a reward for when a shard is picked up, and I give a reward when it puts a shard in the bin. And of course, this like doesn't fully encapsulate what I want. I don't actually care about shards being picked up. This is instrumental to putting them in the bin. So the agent learns to pick up the shard and put it on the floor, and pick up the shard and put it on the floor, and just like milk infinite reward out of the environment. Just like a fun, goofy example. And then later on in the material, we talk about like, even if you specified the reward correctly, so like +1 for putting the shard in the bin, and then like maybe minus something for like -2 for like smashing an urn, in like wacky out of distribution environments, this can like still do the wrong thing. Where suppose the bin just happened to always be in the top left corner of the map when you like training, then the agent doesn't learn put stuff in the bin. It learns drag things to the top left-hand corner and dump them in the corner, which just so happens to always align with what I wanted during training. And then if you test the agent by putting the bin somewhere else, it just walks to the top left corner and like dumps the shards in the corner. And so obviously this is like a contrived toy example where like A, we can easily spot what was wrong with the reward function, and B, we can spot even when the reward function was wonky, why the agent didn't learn to generalize, because during training, it never had to like look at where the bin was. It just always happened to be in the same place, and the agent will just learn the simpler rule of go to the top left. So like we can actually like, do the analysis and work out, great, how do we change the distribution of training environments to fix this? But like in practice, in the real world, A, you can't possibly imagine all the different out of distribution environments that the agent wouldn't see during training. And two, it's really hard to reason about the kinds of things that the model would learn as a proxy for what you wanted that align perfectly during training that do wacky stuff out of distribution. So we have the thing we do during the material is like a toy example of all of these that we can actually reason about as a proxy for the thing that we truly care about which is like, how do I coax the model to have my values? And even if I had like God's reward function that perfectly encapsulates all of human values, I'm like, in general, still screwed if the agent sees like things if it learns a proxy that correlates in distribution but does wacky stuff out of distribution. Why care? Why does this matter for AI safety? Well, the really scary thing is in out of distribution environments, the agent doesn't do silly stuff. It like coherently and in a capable way continues to advance its own goals for the things it's learned in training. So like the agent out of distribution, when you move the bin, doesn't stumble around drunkenly. It like capably puts the shards in the top left corner. So having an agent that like capably optimizes for a goal that you didn't desire it to have seems not just bad, but like potentially dangerous when you're talking about things that are like cleverer or more plugged into the world than like you are. Even when you've specified a reward function correctly, often it's difficult to do so, but suppose you've specified a reward function that perfectly encapsulates the goals of like what it is you want the agent to learn, and then it goes and internally learns the wrong thing anyway, because the proxy, the simpler rule that it's learned, perfectly correlates with what you want during the training distribution, but does wacky stuff when you put it in like an out of distribution environment that it's not seen during training. Is scheming an example of goal misgeneralization? So what is scheming? The agent is internally learned to like deceive the user, or as like internally learned goals that it like doesn't want to present to the outside because it's aware that this like might conflict with how it's being trained. So there'd be no way to tell in training time if the agent has like, well, obviously the agent has learned what you want because it's giving outputs that you want. But whether the agent has like internalized this and shares your goal, or whether it has like a separate goal that's not revealing at the moment, yeah, I guess that would then be an example of goal misgen, because in training time they act the same, but in test time with the agents being deployed, then it goes off and pursues some different goal, and importantly, coherently pursues some different goal instead. So under this framing, yes, I guess I would consider scheming as an example of goal misgeneralization. It's really hard for the brain to learn which action today means 10 years from now I will have lots of kids. So the brain is like, evolution has like put little circuits in the brain that like fire hard for like getting hurt is painful and that's bad. Or like eating things that have sugar in them is good because usually that's a fruit. Or like sex is good because then you have kids and blah, 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 blah. So the brain like has all these other things. And we now live in a wildly out of distribution environment compared to the ancestral environment. And we do things that are not just like orthogonal, but like anti-correlated with genetic fitness because like the thing in our brain rewards us. Eating lots of sugary things is perhaps not that wise for genetic fitness because now we have the super stimulus candy bar that is like maximally sugary, but not actually good for you. Or like playing video games fires the part of my brain that like wants novelty or wants power or wants exploration without actually doing anything useful. Or like birth control or pornography or any one of a number of these things that like tickle the part of the brain that like a long time ago correlated with like genetic fitness, but now is perfectly anti-correlated. So like, yeah, in the sense that like the things that evolution cares about, whatever that means, humans are kind of bad at it. In the sense of like, we don't maximize directly for genetic fitness. And that's fine. I don't care. I don't give a damn what evolution's values are. I care about like the values of like me and my kin or whatever. But this also means that like superintelligent agents might not also share our values even if they were trained in a similar way. Or like even further, I like fully understand the goals that evolution wanted to put in me. And I still don't care, right? I still don't like, I don't know, try to maximize the number of kids that I have or whatever. And in a similar way, even if ASI fully understands your values and fully understands the things that you wanted it to do, it still may not necessarily care and pursue its own goals instead. That's the concern to me.